We're often asked, what kind of damages should I get after my automobile accident? Let me explain. Under Utah law, you're entitled to several categories of damages. They can be categorized into economic and non-economic damages. So in economic damages, we have a couple different types of damages. One would be your medical bills. So if you have to go to the doctor and get treated for your injuries, your medical bills will be compensated. Another type of damage under economic damages would be vehicle repair. If your car is damaged in a crash, you're entitled to get the negligent party to pay to repair or replace your vehicle. Another type of damages under the economic damages category is lost income. You're entitled to be paid for the time that you're unable to work because of physical injuries. And that lost income can be both past and future. Finally, you're entitled to non-economic damages. Sometimes those are called pain and suffering, sometimes they're called general damages, sometimes they're called compensatory damages. But regardless of the name that's put on those, let me kind of explain to you the basis for those. Imagine a situation where, you're playing out in the backyard with one of your kids and you're playing baseball perhaps, and you hit a ball over the fence and it goes and hits the neighbor's window and damages the window. I don't think any of us would question that the neighbor is required, or that you, the one that hit the ball, are required to go to the neighbor, morally required to go to the neighbor and approach them and say, look, I'm sorry, I accidentally broke your window, and then offer to pay for it. I think all of us were taught when we were kids that that's what we should do. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that, and so if the person who broke the window didn't do that, the neighbor, I think all of us would agree, would be justified in saying, look, you broke my window, I need the money to pay for it. And so that's kind of economic damages. But let's take a little bit different scenario. Let's say the neighbor's standing right next to the window, and so when the ball hits the window shatters, the glass falls to the ground, and but the neighbor, an elderly woman standing right behind the window, a little piece of the glass flies out and lands in her eye. Now, how much money should be paid to her? Should it be just the value to replace the window? If we were to say that, it puts us into a morally difficult position, because all of us believe in our hearts that people are more important than property. But if we say, look, you need to pay for the window, but not for the property, that puts property over people. And that is simply morally wrong, and the law does not support it, and courts will not support it. And so what courts say is, if you injure somebody, if you cause them pain, if you cause them suffering, this little piece of glass in the eye, it may be able to be taken out, and it may not cause permanent damage, or maybe it would, right? We don't know from my hypothetical at this point, but let's say it can be taken out and cured. Do you pay the exact same amount? No, you must pay more. It's morally, you're obligated to pay more. And that is what pain and suffering damages is. It's a way in which we as a society state that we believe that people are important, and their physical bodies are important, and their well-being is important. And so when you go in front of a jury, if you've been involved in an automobile accident, you're not just entitled to economic damages. No, you're entitled to more than that. You're entitled to be compensated for your pain and suffering. Now, how much should that be? Well, that's a difficult question, and the jury's asked to answer that and put a dollar amount on it. And let me suggest to you what that ought to be. As a society, do we value people? Do we value their well-being? You know, imagine a scenario where you're sick and you have a sore throat. Perhaps you have strep throat, and it's going to last a very long time. In fact, it may cause all sorts of problems if it's not treated and whatnot. You go to the doctor, and the doctor says, okay, I'm going to charge you $75 for this visit, and if you want a pill which will cure your strep throat, you can pay an extra $50. Now, you have to do a little mental calculation in there. Is it worth it to me to spend $50 in order to cure my strep throat, or should I just let nature take its course and see what happens? Well, I think all of us, or not all of us, but perhaps almost all of us have been in that situation and have said, you know what, it's worth the $50. I am so miserable. This sore throat is so miserable. I do not want it to go on 1 second longer, and $50 is a small price to pay in order to cut that time down. Well, as a society, we value people much more than we value property. Let me give you another example. A fighter pilot is in a fighter plane, and the fighter pilot knows that the fighter pilot may be able to bring, the plane has some sort of damage or it's going to crash, but the pilot may be able to bring it down safely. We put ejection seats in these planes because we value people more than a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And we say to the pilot, look, if you get in a situation where you're going to crash, go ahead and eject. It's better to save your life and basically throw the airplane away than it is to go down with that plane. Well, as a society, we put a multiplied value on the value of human life over property. And so let me just suggest something to you. If a person were to pay $50 to have for a pill to cure strep throat, it's probably worth 10 times that to that person. $500. They'd probably pay $500. They'd maybe even pay more than that in order to have that cure. We all know of babies that have been put in the ICU and hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills in order to give that baby a better chance of living. We as a society value people much more than property. And so what is the value? Well, it's impossible for me to say on this video because we don't know the extent of the injuries. But that being said, it's got to be multiple times, probably 10 times or more than the medical bills, than the property damage, than the lost income. We do not live our lives to work. We work so that we can live our lives. That is what pain and suffering is all about. And if a jury follows its charge and follows the law, it will award an amount for pain and suffering that typically is multiple times higher than the other types of economic damages. I hope this adds some clarity to the situation and helps you understand the basis for pain and suffering or non-economic damages. Thanks for your time.